Hello, students, and welcome to our math lesson today called A Gallery of Data. We've been talking a lot about ways to represent data, so we're going to do more of that today. So we will specifically today graphically represent data, and we will collect and critique others' data representations. So I want you to spend a couple of minutes. Let's spend 2 minutes and get yourselves into groups of maybe about 4 people. So give yourself 2 minutes and then do that and then come back to the video. Okay, I hope you did that. So our agenda for today, I want you to get focused with your group, spend a minute just thinking about what you need to do. We will have a warm-up called dot plots. Our lesson is the gallery of data. We have a cool down activity called Why Graphical Representations. And we have some homework. I will assign the homework practice problems that go along with today's lesson. So make sure we're focused and ready to learn. When we are through today, you will have completed your warm up lesson and cool down. You have read the lesson summary at least twice, and make sure you can access those homework practice problems because I do check that. So let's get centered, block out distractions, make sure your name is on your lesson pages, and make sure you've written down your homework assignment somewhere, maybe in an agenda or somewhere where you can be reminded of it. So let's get started. For our do now or our warm up, we have something called a gallery of data, notice and wonder. So we've done this before. I want you to take a minute. I want you to look at this illustration here, this display of data. Take 1 minute, try to notice at least one thing and wonder at least one thing, starting now. Okay, so what did you notice and what did you wonder? Um, Hopefully you're getting better at this and really honing your mind so that you are critically looking at things. So some of the things you might have noticed that in both of these, the shape of the distribution is the same. It's pretty spread out, which is another thing that you may have noticed, this spread out distribution. We do not have a bell curve. Um, if you looked at the intervals, you would see that all the intervals are of 1, but the intervals on the bottom dot plot are shifted up by $7. You may have wondered what would a box plot of that data look like, or what I sometimes call the box and whisker plot that looks like this. What would that look like in that data? You might wonder, what does a dinner cost that has a $17 tip? Um, so also, what do you notice about the distribution? The distribution in each one of these is the same, and it's the same because we have the same distribution just shifted up by $7 in the bottom dot plot. So let's see. Let's ask some questions. What is the most frequent value in? I'm going to call this box plot 1 and box plot 2. What is the most frequent value in box plot 1? And I would say it's $4. In box plot 2, the most frequent distribution, most frequent tip is $11. What is the value of the highest tip in box plot 1? Well, that's $10. And the value of the highest tip in dot plot 2 is $17. The lowest tip value in dot plot 1 is $1. That person's not a very good tipper. The lowest tip in the second dot plot is $8. So what happens if you add $7 to each of the values in the first dot plot? Well, what happens is it becomes the second dot plot. So today we're going to look at some data displays, and you're going to get some data, and I want you to do two things. I want you to create a dot plot, histogram, and box plot to display the distribution of data. So here's a dot plot up here. We talked about the box plot or box and whisker plot, and then the histogram is the one that has the bars that touch each other. We need an X and a Y axis labeled for a histogram. And after you do that, I want you to write 3 comments that interpret the data. So you're in groups, and here's your data. So we have 4 data sets, 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to choose 2 data sets. You can choose 1 and 3, or 1 and 2, or 2 and 4, or 3 and 4. You decide, or 2 and 3. Choose 2 data sets. And I want you to create a dot plot, a histogram, and a box plot for each set of data. So we've given you some room to do that. So we have room for your box plot, your dot plot, and your histogram. And we want you to come up with 3 comments that interpret the data according to what you've drawn. So we're going to give you 25 minutes to work on that as a group and do both sets of data. So your 25 minutes begins now. So stop the tape and put a timer on. Okay, hopefully you've worked on that. Hopefully you've summarized the information in the display. Did you have data that were clustered around one value? The dot plot would show that, but the box plot would not show that. The box plot, remember, shows the median as a typical value. Let's ask another question. If you collected data from all the students in the school, you had a lot of data, what would you rather create, a dot plot, or a box plot? And I myself would want to create a box plot because all you need to do is find that 5-figure summary for the box plot. You need the minimum, the maximum, the median, which is the middle, and the first quartile, and the third quartile. So what is the shape of your distribution on your dot plot? Is it clustered or is it spread apart? What information is displayed by the dot plot that is not displayed by the box plot? And the interesting thing about the dot plot is it displays all of the values in a data set. Each one of those dots is a piece of data. But the box plot shows the quartiles and the median, which we don't get a sense of that with a dot plot. So think carefully about what things jump out at you when you look at data displays, and think about the different contexts and places you would use the different ways to represent data. And with practice, you will get much, much better at this. We do have a cool down today. Let's look at that. So what we have, it's called Y graphical representations. We have a large school system that summarized the number of teachers at 51 schools in the area. So this chart coordinates that information, that data. So 5 schools have between 25 and 30 teachers, 7 schools between 30 and 40, 5 schools between 40 and 50, and so forth. One school has between 110 and 120 teachers. It must be a very large school. So they've given you the minimum, the maximum, the median, the first quartile, and the third quartile. So you already have your 5-number summary. So now we want you to create a box plot, and you can use the number line above to do that. And we want you to create a histogram in the space below. Actually, go on to the next page. We've given you the x-axis and the y-axis, and we've given you the intervals. And after you create the histogram and the box plot, I want you to answer this question. Which of these data displays most easily shows how many schools have at least 100 teachers per school? And explain your reasoning. And then before you go, this was the assignment. And read your lesson summary at least 2 times. Don't forget you have homework tonight, and you're to look for those practice problems for 1.3. You've done a great job. I'm real proud of how hard you're working. And remember, stay focused, stay centered, honor yourself and the hard work you do and your commitment to school. We're so proud of you. Stay with it and have a great day. Remember, with practice, you'll be great.